Hi guys, I hope you're having a good day and a good year so far. My year hasn't started because school in England doesn't start until October, so I'm just kind of chilling, but I leave next week, so I'm going to do this video before I leave, and then a few more while I'm overseas. So today I'm going to discuss Romans 5, 6 through 8, because that's just something that I've been thinking a lot about lately, and I think it's something that can relate to all of us, especially right now. So it reads, it's one of my memory verses, so I have it on a little note card, but it says, Romans 5:6, "For while we were still weak, at the right time, Christ died for the ungodly. For one will scarcely die for a righteous person, though perhaps for a good person one would dare even to die. But God shows his own love for us, in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." So I'm sure a lot of us have heard that last part, that but God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. I feel like that's a pretty popular one, but I think the preface of that is so important because it gives you a fuller picture of what's actually going on. So it says that while we were still weak, at the right time, Christ died for the ungodly. And then it compares, for one will scarcely die for a righteous person, though for a good person one may dare even to die. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And that is such a huge deal, and I can just mumble those words, but to really grasp this concept, just ask yourself, okay, so how many of you would die for your best friend or your closest family member? I'm sure a lot of you would. I'm sure a lot of you would be, oh yeah, I will die for, my best friend. Okay, so how many of you then would die for a complete stranger? Someone that you had never met. You had to say, okay, we're going to take this complete stranger's life or mine. I will take his place. I'll die for him. So probably less of you, because you really care about your best friend, but you don't know this person at all. So, well, I'll choose my life. And then the next step would be, okay, so how many of you would die for somebody you hated? See, I imagine less people would. And then one step further, how many of you would die for, let's say, someone who was just sentenced 20 years in prison? I know that hits home, but I imagine not a lot of us would. We look at a person in prison and say, this is a bad person, I would not die for him. We value our lives. So what this verse in Romans is saying is that while we were still weak, at the right time, Christ died for the ungodly, which is huge. For one will scarcely die for a righteous person. It would be tough to find someone who would die for even a good person. But God demonstrates his love for us in the fact that while we were enemies to God, Christ died for us. That while we were dirty, that while we were sinning, that while I was blaspheming the name of Christ, while I was in my heart saying, no, I choose my way over Jesus, I choose all of these things over Jesus, that's when Jesus died for me. And that gives me, it just makes me so in awe of who Jesus is and what he's done for me, and how much God really loves us, that while we were enemies, Christ died for us. That while we were the one that should be sentenced to 20 years in prison, Christ died for us. And it's not because of anything we did. It's not because of any potential we have. It's not because of anything that we could possibly offer God. It is because of who God is and what his attributes are and who Jesus is. It's because of Jesus' unfailing love, his relentless mercy. It's just overwhelming, because I deserve to be separated from Jesus. And while I was sinning in the darkest part of my life, which may be in my future, who knows, Jesus died for me then. Even then, Jesus died for me. So just take a moment today and reflect on the fact that Jesus loves you at your weakest. Jesus loves you at your darkest. Jesus would die for you on the day when no one else would. Love you guys. Have a good week. Let me know if you need anything. Prayer requests, anything. Love you. Bye.